Welcome to the Fear and Greed Business News Afternoon Report for Tuesday, the 24th of September, 2024. I'm Sean Aylmer. Every afternoon, we've got the 5 stories that happened today that you need to know about. Story number 1, the Reserve Bank of Australia has left the benchmark interest rate at 4.35% and made it clear that rates are on hold for the time being. And the next move, up or down, will depend on whether inflation comes back into the bank's 2 to 3% target band. The central bank said underlying inflation, not the headline rate, is most indicative of inflation momentum, and at 3.9%, it's too high. The Reserve Bank doesn't see inflation returning sustainably to target until 2026. The decision to leave rates on hold was expected, but still the Aussie dollar jumped on the news, hitting a high for 2024 of above 68.6 US cents. Story number 2, the S&P ASX 200 closed down just a touch, 0.1%, to 8,142 points today. It was a day where the opposite of what's happened most of the year happened. The miners did well and the banks did poorly. A stimulus announcement out of Beijing, more on that shortly, helped BHP and Rio Tinto jump almost 4%, while Fortescue Metals Group rose 1.6%, but National Australia Bank and Commonwealth Bank ended the day down 3%, and Westpac and ANZ were off more than 2%. The share prices of the two big supermarkets, Woolworths and Coles, fell further, following yesterday's revelation that the competition watchdog accused the giants of misleading customers by saying they were dropping prices when they're actually lifting them. Both were down around 2.7% today. The uranium miners continued their positive trend, with Paladin, Boss Energy and Deep Yellow all higher, following the reopening of a nuclear reactor in the US. They're among the best on the day. Worst was a company called Light and Wonder, which is dual listed here and on the NASDAQ. It's a gaming group. It lost a case in which Aristocrat Leisure was granted an injunction against Light and Wonder's Dragon Train game. That resulted in its share price falling 18% today, while Aristocrat ended up more than 2%. Story number 3, online luxury retailer Cettire's share price jumped more than 70% today after the group's financial accounts for the last financial year received auditor sign-off. Grant Thornton provided an unqualified audit opinion after taking more than 3 weeks to more thoroughly assess how Cettire books revenue. It followed media reports about how revenue, including duties, were collected. The audit report said the firm assessed the design and implementation of relevant controls relating to how Cettire recognises revenue, and also challenged management and an external expert on the practice. Cettire's share price has been volatile. In March last year, it was trading not far off $5. It fell to $1.05 at the end of last month. It's more than doubled since then, thanks to today's surge. Story number 4, David Foster has resigned from the Bendigo and Adelaide Bank Board months after stepping down as chair of Star Entertainment. Mr. Foster has been under pressure and was on leave of absence from the Bendigo board over text he sent while at Star to the then chief executive Robbie Cook, calling for the scrapping of the casino regulator and the removal of the manager controlling its Sydney casino licence. At the time, he was chair of Star, and later he conceded he was trigger-happy with the text messages. Ultimately, Mr. Foster said Star was unfit to regain its full unsupervised licence and stepped down. He's been on the Bendigo board since September 2019. And story number 5, the Central Bank of China today announced a raft of stimulus measures to support economic growth. There were changes to reserve requirements for banks and cuts to existing home loan interest rates. The People's Bank of China will also provide funding to buy stocks. It comes after a briefing between Chinese regulators and following data that shows home prices in China have fallen by the most in 10 years. Beijing is targeting a 5% growth rate, though thus far in 2024, the expansion is lagging somewhat. Today's announcement wasn't a big intervention, but it certainly was a good start. The news of the intervention sent iron ore prices higher. Oil prices are creeping higher, helped by the news out of China, though given what's going on in the Middle East, it's probably surprising they're not rising by more. That's it for the afternoon report for Tuesday, the 24th of September, 2024. Don't forget to hit follow on the podcast and find Fear and Greed on LinkedIn, Instagram, X, TikTok and Facebook. Join Michael Thompson and I tomorrow morning for the Fast 5 by Fear and Greed, the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Sean Aylmer. Enjoy your evening.